Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Debt Collection 101 here on R But You. And once again, we're joined by a very, very special guest. We have Matt Kiefer, who's joining us here. And yeah, Matt, thanks so much for joining us. We're going to be talking about negotiating on bad debt, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Good morning. All right.
Yeah, so I guess for anyone that's watching that doesn't know who you are, Matt, why don't you tell us about yourself and your, how you got into this industry?
Sure. Well, to go way back, when I got out of high school, I really didn't know what I wanted to do. I got my AA, and then I went to UCF for engineering. But then I left and then started off my career as as a police officer before going back to school and to get my bachelor's degree at UCF. Then I went into fast food restaurant management, of all things, and then from there migrated to full-service restaurant management, while also serving as a reserve police officer. Then I decided to get out of the restaurant business and go back and get my MBA. And even when I left UCF, I said that at that time that was going to be it for school. I wasn't going to go back to school, but I did. I ended up going back for my MBA to University of Phoenix. While pursuing my MBA, I had to find something to do, so I actually worked full-time at Florida Hospital, what used to be called Florida Hospital in Orlando. It's now Advent Health. In the patient financial services area. And I worked in a variety of positions in patient financial services while still serving as a reserve police officer. It wasn't until after receiving my MBA that I actually went to work for the hospital's wholly owned collection agency at the time, before they sold it. I was in charge of implementing this scary new thing everybody will remember called HIPAA. And we actually worked not only in the agency to train the collection agency personnel in HIPAA, but I was part of a big group that the administration had put together to train all of the different hospitals. I think at the time there was like 7 or 8 different hospitals. So we went in to train all the personnel on that scary new thing called HIPAA. I guess that's where I gained my interest in compliance, because HIPAA was extremely compliance focused, and that's where I developed that interest. I went from assistant director and served that agency for a little over 9 years when the hospital sold the agency. And then I served at 2 other agencies for several years before landing at Preferred. I also served as president of the Florida Collectors Association during the time, as well as the education chair. And I'm currently elected as the president of the Florida Collectors Association again. So I guess I joined my current agency, and I call it my home, the Preferred Group at Tampa, in the summer of 2015. I say home because it's kind of like the hospital. It's faith-based, which makes it a pleasure to go to work and to serve our clients, my colleagues, and our employees as well. And it really makes a difference when your organization practices what it preaches and does the right thing all the time. Some of our clients have been with us for over 30 years, and many of our employees have also been with us for over 8 years. We had an employee that just retired. She was with us for over 20 years.
Wow.
And in our industry, that's really kind of unheard of.
Yeah, that's awesome.
The Preferred's growth has been organic. It's mostly by referrals. We have no sales team, and my CEO, David Kelly, has a lot of faith in his team and a keen vision on what's making recovery efforts these days more customer focused, more customer friendly. And the faith-based also helps in that area. That certainly helps keep compliance concerns that I deal with every day in line, but it doesn't make everything that go away. You're still going to be faced with those frivolous lawsuits out there, and just like other agencies, we fight that kind of stuff every day.
Sure. Well, thank you, and congratulations for the newly elected president there. So can you kind of tell us a little bit about the kind of training your agents currently receive, and why you think it's important to equip collectors with ongoing industry knowledge?
Sure. Well, we start off with the ACA training. It's kind of probably standard in many agencies. They have the CD-ROM and the courses online and stuff. So you have the basic FDCPA training, and then I teach the essential collection techniques through ACA. It's the training specialist program, I think, TSP. So I have the ability to teach that, and that saves quite a bit of money as well. But we also do a lot of different areas of training. In addition to what ACA offers. David will do like leadership type training. We do some linguistic modeling, building rapport, building on the customer, essential collection techniques. dealing with stalls and objections and overcoming stalls and objections, and then some of the more medical focused areas like HIPAA, red flag rules, and things like that. Getting them familiar with the lingo that in the medical arena you have to deal with, like EOBs, explanation of benefits, and all that kind of stuff. Because in our industry, anything can change on a dime, so it's really important to keep the collectors focused and up to date on changes in the law. You can have a ruling in the same district that varies from one week to the next week.
Very true, very true.
Okay. So do you have a strategy on training your agent, do you have a strategy when you're training your agents for them to qualify debt as something that maybe is uncollectible or a bad account? How do you handle that? Is there any smoking guns for this that you would say, that you show them? Or
yeah, I think it really starts off with the business that you accept. So for instance, if you're dealing with very, very old debt, we don't do that. I mean, we're not going to service debt that's 5, 6 years old. It depends on the client, the quality of the data that they can get you. So number one, in the medical arena, a lot of times, a lot of our patients are repeat patients. So you're going to have John Doe may have 15 or 50 accounts with you. So we try and make sure that they don't create the mindset that just because John Doe didn't pay 15 times before, each day is a new day. So you try and teach the collector that each new debt needs to be treated as a new debt on its own, because a person's circumstances may change. They may have gotten a new job. They may have changed locations, address where they perhaps 14 other times you didn't know where they live, but now you got a new address from this client. And many times, patients are seeing several of your various clients that you may have in your system, whether it's an orthopedic, a hospital, or another physician. So you may have older accounts. Now you have good information for the first time, and you have a fresh chance, to collect that payment.
Okay.
So I guess, just in a nutshell, building rapport, making sure that the data is valid, and that they can get the data if they need it. For instance, if the debt is disputed, you got to make sure you can go back to your client and secure guarantor agreements and just to prove the validity of the debt if needed.
Awesome.
That makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so are there any negotiation tactics you might share with us that might facilitate closure?
Yeah, I mean, obviously there's ACA training courses and stuff like that on negotiating debt, dealing with stalls and objections, but you're really dealing with various personality types and stuff. You've got people person, dreamers, thinkers, drivers, so you have to be able to identify those different personality types and address each one accordingly and specific to the personality types. So there's all kinds of training material out there with ACA, but I think the most important thing is to build rapport. One of the things we do and we train in our agency is linguistic modeling. So think of yourself as going into a car lot, and you're a real, from the South, laid back, slow voice, slow paced kind of person, and you've got this A-type personality that jumps up to you right away and says, hey, what can I get you into today? How about this, over, and they're speaking really fast, and you're just not going to connect. You're not going to build that rapport with that person, and more than likely you're going to turn them off. So we teach linguistic modeling, which is to basically mirror the tone and pitch of the person that you're speaking to. So if you need to slow it down, hey, how are you doing? Yeah, coming in here to look at the car, and not the here's your sign deal, but obviously they're there to look at a car. But you want to meet them at the tone and the pitch and the timing that they are at, and then that's how you will help to build the rapport. And by building rapport, that's going to help you build trust, and then hopefully close the sale, or in this case, collect on the debt. We also train them. We do all kinds of medical debt. So for ER, a lot of times a patient will go to the ER, and there's this expectation that once they're well, 6 months down the road, they're out of sight, out of mind. They forgot about the debt. They don't think about going back to the ER, so they don't care about it. So you almost have to bring that patient back in time to that incident where their life was in danger, or their child's life was in danger, and they sought the services of the ER. Excuse me. So you want to make sure you bring them back, ground them, and then try and get that payment from them by building rapport. In the physician arena, where a patient is going back to the same physician, oftentimes, they don't want to upset. They'll pay the bill. They might be apologetic about the bill because they want to go back and see that physician. In I'll say the old times, but years ago, it used to be the case that a person could not pay the bill and still go back and see the physician. Nowadays, we're starting to see, physicians or practice managers start to push back on the policies by engaging the patient and telling them, we're not going to see you again, and you're not going to get treatment from us. Now, I'm not talking about the ER, I'm talking about the physician side. But we're not going to continue treatment until you pay these obligations that are in bad debt. And that really starts to work well. When I've been in practice management, before practice managers as well as physicians, you really have the last thing a physician wants to do is get pushback from the patient. They don't want the complaints. They're going to believe every story that they're told. But I tell the physicians and I tell the practice managers, what did that person drive in to your office with? What kind of car were they driving? What kind of clothes were they wearing? They're going to give you this story about how they can't pay their $32 copay or their $50 copay, but they drove in a 2018 Lexus. They're living in a $300,000 house and they don't want to pay your bill. Why should you feel sorry about that? And it's really about changing mindsets from practice managers, physicians, etc., in order to get them to understand, number one, you should use a collection agency, and then conveying that to the collectors. Look, we understand you're going to get every sob story on the phone from, I can't pay my bills, I have no money, I have no job, but you have cable. Are you smoking cigarettes? Are you drinking? Not that we're going to get in that level, but that's the mindset you have to create. A lot of times, a collector will basically put their own financial situation and bring that to work with them. So when it comes to set up a payment plan, if the bill is $10,000, a collector may start out with, well, could you do a $25 a month payment plan? That's what I could do. Could you do a $50? Well, that's, it'd be hard for me. But if you don't train your collectors to have the mindset that you have to expect to collect. We had a collector that brought in I think it was a $25,000 or a $23,000 credit card payment. If you don't ask, you won't get. And if you start low, you can't go high. It's always best to start with payment in full first and you work your way down. Because if they start too low, it's really hard to get somebody, back up there and get a bill paid for your client in a year, 12 months, 18 months, 2 years, rather than a $50 payment that's going to go on until the person's 87 years old. So that's kind of the stuff that we train behind the scenes here at Preferred.
Yeah, I want to go back to that, I guess, the linguistic modeling that you were talking about a little bit.
Sure.
So I don't know if this is similar, but when I was a collector, I used to, this wasn't based on any data by any means. I wasn't smart enough at the time to realize this, but I used to pass accounts off based on maybe this. Like I would get a read for that consumer that I was dealing with, and I would know if, like you said, their personality type didn't match my personality type, and I wasn't going to be able to collect them. And I would pass them off to the collector in the office that I felt dealt with that person the best. Is that something that do you do that, or do you train each collector then to just handle that account based on and change their personality kind of?
Sure. One of the things we do is, there's different mindsets. Basically, when accounts come to an agency, you can, band them off to different collectors, and then they have that account for life. But what we do, we work in a pooled environment. So basically, a collector can't take an account unless there's some expectation of payment. And the reason is twofold. Number one, your personality type may just not jive with that person that you're trying to collect from for any given reason. And by working in a pooled environment, if my personality on Monday in the afternoon didn't jive with John Doe, but now he gets Susie Q over here on a Wednesday in the morning and he's just had a good fresh cup of coffee, maybe Susie Q is able to build up rapport with him and collect that account. And again, working in a pooled environment, it gives different people different day parts because people's personalities can change, their moods can change. They may be hangry because they're hungry and angry at the same time. But you get them a cup, after you get them after they've had lunch or something like that, you may actually make a good connection and make a successful recovery. Does that help?
Yeah.
Okay.
Is it hard to deal with the pool? Like, do the collectors enjoy the pooled environment? I guess we've had when we deal with different collection agencies, some of them say that it's hard to get the collectors to buy into kind of a pool environment, that they'd rather have their own thing and work it themselves.
You know, I mean, it may be, and also, you know, change is one of those things. When you go from one environment to a pooled environment, change is hard to accept no matter how you do it. But we've been doing it for several years. It's been very successful. And, you know, I should say that as a new account comes on, if Suzy Q has a payment plan established, they're going to have the ability to get that new account put on that payment plan and kind of connect it to them. Because obviously, if somebody's built up rapport with Suzy Q and now he's dealing with John Doe over here and he doesn't have rapport, he's going to ask for Suzy Q. So it just makes sense. But, you know, there's hybrids, there's combinations of these different kinds of environments to work collections in. So I think you just got to do what's best for your agency.
Nice. Okay. Yeah. Thanks. I mean, yeah, that was great. Thanks so much for answering all our questions there. Do you have anything else, Mike T?
No, that was it for me. I mean, thank you very much. And again, congratulations. I'm going to start making sales calls after people eat lunch today. So.
All right.
Do you have anything else to add?
Appreciate you having me, and I hope everybody out there that sees this will participate in the industry, participate in your associations, especially your state association. And if you're in Florida, make sure you join the Florida Collectors Association.
Awesome. We'll put your information below so that they can get in contact with you if they need to. And I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thanks so much.
Thanks, Matt.
Yep. Thanks for watching, everybody.
Great afternoon.
Thanks a lot, you too. Enjoy the sunshine down there.
Thanks.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe. See you next week.